Welcome to Episode 7, Sampling, Populations, Periods, and Selection Logic. Sampling is one of the quiet disciplines that gives assurance its credibility. Without it, assessments either test too little to be trusted or too much to be practical. Sampling sits at the balance point between effort and confidence. It shows that conclusions are not built on anecdotes but on representative proof. Every system, from payroll to cloud hosting, produces far more transactions than can ever be reviewed manually. So programs rely on sampling to test enough to know without drowning in data. When done correctly, sampling becomes the bridge between precision and efficiency, proving that the whole operates as well as its tested parts. Building on that idea, sampling begins with clear definitions of population, item, and period. A population is the complete set of instances that a control governs, such as all access requests, all configuration changes, or all backup jobs. An item is a single example drawn from that population, while the period defines the time window under review. Together, they frame the universe and time frame for evidence. For instance, if you are testing quarterly access reviews, the population is every review conducted in the quarter. Each record is an item, and the period is that 3-month window. Precise definitions prevent confusion when different teams read the same results later, ensuring everyone knows exactly what sample means. From there, sampling methods matter, and risk-based approaches usually beat random draws. Random sampling may sound objective, but it often wastes effort on low-impact areas while missing higher-risk ones. A risk-based method focuses attention on items most likely to reveal meaningful insight. For example, when reviewing user access, you might choose administrative accounts, privileged applications, or newly onboarded users rather than a random 10% of all accounts. The point is not bias, it is intelligent prioritization. Risk-based sampling produces better information per unit of effort and aligns the testing process with the organization's actual exposure. Coverage follows next, making sure samples include all relevant contexts, including inherited controls, tenant configurations, and approved exceptions. A control might appear universal on paper but behave differently across environments. Suppose a cloud service inherits some controls from its provider and maintains others locally. Both parts must appear somewhere in the sample set. Likewise, tenant-specific settings or exception processes deserve representation to ensure the sample reflects the whole ecosystem, not just the ideal scenario. Comprehensive coverage gives decision-makers confidence that the sample mirrors reality, not just convenience. Once coverage is mapped, selecting the right period determines how relevant the results will be. Recency matters because stale data tells only what used to be true. However, not every control runs daily, so periods should match the control's rhythm. For instance, patching might use a monthly period, while disaster recovery testing could use an annual one. The goal is to sample the most recent completed cycles that still reflect normal operation, not emergency conditions or temporary pauses. By aligning period selection with the control's natural cadence, you produce evidence that truly represents ongoing behavior rather than isolated snapshots. Next comes calculating sample size without overwhelming the team. The principle is simple. Test enough to reduce uncertainty, but not so much that effort exceeds value. Many programs adopt proportional rules, such as testing 10% of transactions or a minimum of 5 items per category, then adjust upward for higher-risk controls. The exact number matters less than the reasoning behind it. Explain why the chosen size balances confidence with efficiency. Sampling is an exercise in sufficiency, not exhaustion. The aim is to prove operation consistently, not to examine every record in the log. To streamline this process, seeding sampling with automation pays long-term dividends. Automated selection tools can pull records randomly or by defined risk criteria, maintaining objectivity while saving time. For example, a script might extract access change tickets that meet certain conditions, tagging them for review. Automation also supports reproducibility, because another assessor can rerun the same query and get the same list. The less manual judgment applied at selection, the more defensible the result. Automation does not replace oversight. It makes oversight faster and cleaner, ensuring human judgment is spent interpreting results, not gathering them. As samples are tested, maintaining evidence sufficiency across all selected items keeps conclusions valid. Each sample should have enough documentation to demonstrate that the control worked as intended for that instance. If half the samples have complete data and half are missing approvals or timestamps, overall assurance suffers. The assessor should confirm that every item meets the same evidence standards: complete, authentic, and relevant. Sufficiency across the set is what allows extrapolation to the larger population. Inconsistent evidence weakens confidence even if no single control fails outright because the pattern suggests unreliable execution. Inevitably, some sampled items will fail, raising the question of how to handle retests and replacements. A failure does not automatically mean the control is broken. It signals an exception to investigate. The team must decide whether to test more items to confirm scope or accept the finding as representative. Replacement samples should only occur when evidence is missing for reasons unrelated to control performance, and every substitution must be documented. Retesting should verify corrective action, not erase the record of failure. Transparent handling of failed samples builds trust with assessors and leadership alike. To keep that transparency, every sampling effort must document its method, rationale, and results. The documentation should explain how populations were defined, how items were chosen, what period applied, and why the sample size was appropriate. It should also note any deviations, retests, or exceptions encountered along the way. This record serves as both a reproducibility guide and a defense during audits. Think of it as a recipe that allows another team to cook the same meal and taste the same result. When sampling logic is clear, confidence extends beyond the immediate reviewers to anyone who later reads the report. Equally important is communicating sampling results and methods to stakeholders clearly. Not every executive or team lead needs to understand statistical terminology, but everyone must grasp what the sample represents and what it does not. Avoid jargon like confidence interval when a simple phrase such as "our tests covered 20% of transactions focusing on high-risk cases" will do. Clarity keeps sampling from sounding like mystery math. It also prevents misinterpretation of limited findings as universal truths. Communication is the last safeguard, ensuring that insight translates into informed decisions. Auditors, too, bring their own expectations and common questions. They often ask how populations were defined, whether the sample covered all relevant environments, and how independence was maintained during selection. They will check that replacements were justified and that evidence aligns with the described items. Knowing these questions in advance allows teams to prepare cleaner records. Auditors value transparency over perfection. They want to see the reasoning as much as the result. Meeting those expectations transforms the audit from interrogation into validation, reinforcing professional credibility on both sides. Finally, governance ties the process together through schedules, ownership, and thresholds. Sampling should follow a recurring calendar, not happen only when audits loom. Each control family can assign an owner responsible for planning, executing, and reviewing samples on time. Thresholds define when results trigger deeper testing or escalation. Governance turns sampling into a routine part of assurance, integrated with metrics and continuous monitoring. Regular cadence ensures lessons from each cycle feed back into stronger design and risk decisions rather than gathering dust. In conclusion, sampling that earns trust blends method with meaning. It defines clear boundaries, tests representative cases, and communicates findings in language everyone can follow. When populations, periods, and selection logic are transparent, results become repeatable, defendable, and actionable. The organization gains not only audit readiness, but genuine insight into how well its controls perform day to day. That is the quiet strength of sampling done right. It builds confidence not by volume of evidence, but by the precision of thought behind every piece of it. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.